अब यहाँ पनि विभिन्न पक्षबाट हेरौँ आइकनोग्राफी मूर्तिकला विद विनयतोष भट्टाचार्य.
For this question as well, let's examine it from various angles like we did for the previous ones. First, let's look at it from the point of iconography. Binoy-Tosh Bhattacharya, a renowned iconographer, has written in his book on Buddhist esotericism that based on their iconography, we can state with 100% certainty that Buddhist Tantra is older than Hindu Tantra, and that the latter is derived as a copy of Buddhist Tantra. This point can be found in his books, An Introduction to Buddhist Esotericism and The Indian Buddhist Iconography. Now let's look at it from another angle, which has also been noted by Bhattacharya and can be found elsewhere as well.
हिन्दू तन्त्रमा सबभन्दा पुरानो वर्गमध्ये पिचु तन्त्रलाई मानिन्छ.
In Hindu Tantra, the oldest class of tantras is considered to be Pichu Tantra. So Pichu Tantra is practiced by Hindu tantrics. Pichu Tantra refers to a class of tantras and it includes other tantras, two of which are called Rudrayamal and Brahmayamal. And there is something very interesting in these tantras. They say that Vashishta Brahmin had gone to Mahachin. Now Mahachin refers to Tibet. Chin means China, and Mahachin means Tibet in Sanskrit. And why did he go there? In order to learn Tantra from Shiva in the form of a Buddha. Now let's consider this point, that he went to Mahachin. Up until the 13th century, before people like Bhaktiyar Khilji completely destroyed Nalanda, Vikramashil, Odantapuri, Sompuri, Vallabhi, Jagadalla, Vikramapur, etc., Tibetans would come from Tibet or Mahachin to learn Tantra at those Mahaviharas. It is actually incorrect to say learn Tantra, as the correct word in proper Buddhist tradition is Tantrayan. They would come to Nepal and to India to learn about Tantrayan. For example, Marpa. Guru Marpa came to Nepal and studied with two gurus here, Paindipa and Chitherpa, who then told him, if you want to study further, you should go to our Guru Naropa, who is in the south, in Nalanda. In the south meant in India or Bharat, which is to the south of Nepal, as at that time the word India itself did not exist. It was in Magadh. Naropa was in Magadh. And Marpa went there and met Naropa and studied with him. We can spend a lot of time just on this story, so let's not go there now. But it was not only Marpa who did this. Many others also did the same, including Drugmi Lochawa and Mal Lochawa. Now a question arises. So if people from Mahachin or Tibet came to learn Tantrayan at Nalanda, Vikramashil, etc., up until the 13th century, why would the Brahmin Vashishta go to Mahachin to learn Tantra before Nalanda, etc. were destroyed? We need to reflect on this. And then, it would be one thing if the story said that after going to Mahachin, he studied with a Hindu guru there. But who did he learn from? From Shiva in the form of a Buddha. So with Shiva, but who was in the form of a Buddha. So what does this really mean? It means that he studied with a Buddhist guru. But in order to Hinduize it, the Buddhist guru was portrayed to be Shiva. Otherwise, it couldn't be Hinduized. So it says he studied with Shiva in the form of a Buddha. This is found in the Brahmayamal and Rudrayamal Tantras. Now, if Hindu Tantra preceded Buddhist Tantra, that is the Buddhist Tantra which was taught in Nalanda, Vikramashil, etc., if these were just copied from Hindu Tantra, if they were influenced by Hindu Tantra and just derived from it, then it is curious as to why there was the need for Vashishta Brahmin to go to Mahachin to learn Tantra. Because it was Buddha Dharma that was destroyed. Hindu Dharma did not have everything destroyed in the same way, as they did not have institutions like monasteries. They did not have centers which could be completely obliterated by the Muslims. So what is clear here is that Tantra was not available in India at that time. So that is why Vashishta went to Tibet to learn it. And so when would that be? It would have to be after the 13th century. Why? Because otherwise he would have gone to learn Tantra at Nalanda. Why would he have to go to Tibet to study with the Tibetans who themselves had studied with gurus from Nalanda? Remember that those Tibetan gurus had themselves studied with gurus from Nalanda. They had studied with gurus from Vikramashil. So we need to think about this, as to why he went there. And this is mentioned in both Rudrayamal and Brahmayamal Tantras. The only difference is that Brahmayamal says it was Vishnu instead of Shiva. Thus, from these two angles that we have looked at,
बौद्ध तन्त्र पुरानो हो, हिन्दू तन्त्र त्यसको प्रतिलिपि हो, बनाएको हो.
it is evident that Buddhist Tantra is older and Hindu Tantra is a copy of it, derived from it. But a copy does not mean an exact copy, because the Buddhist view, Buddhist philosophy, and Buddhist teachings are completely contradictory to Hindu view, Hindu philosophy, and Hindu teachings. Atmavad, or the view of really existing self, and Anatmavad, or the view of no self, and Satvad, or the view of unchanging and permanently existing self, and Shunyatavad, or the view of emptiness, are completely different from each other. Now, it is clear from the stories in the Hindu Tantras themselves that Vashishta did learn something about Tantra and then Hinduized it. But with regard to Hindu Tantra and Buddhist Tantra being the same, there are many fine points that differentiate the two. First of all, in Hindu Dharma, Tantra refers to the path, whereas in Buddha Dharma, Tantra refers to the name of the texts, such as Hevaja Tantra, Chakrasamvara Tantra, Kala Chakra Tantra, etc. The path itself is not called Tantra. It is called Tantrayan, or it is also called Vajrayan, Sahajayan, Guhyayan, and Upayayan. Secondly, let us also look at the definitions of Tantra. The Hindu Tantra aligns with its own view and philosophy. Even if we accept that it was derived from Buddhist Tantra and then rehashed, which is clear is what happened, and that it came after Buddhist Tantra, as it cannot possibly be from before, again for the reasons I have already given. So, even if we accept this, it can still be seen that they have modified it to align with Atmavad. So it is different in that they have rehashed it to align with the Atmavad view. And whether it refers to Shiva or Brahma, it is still the same thing. All the various terms such as Parasamvid, Shambhavi Vidya, etc. are just using different words to denote Vedanta's Atma, or the knower. No matter the name given, such as Parashakti or Kali or any other, in the end there is only the same awareness, and it is called Atma. Whereas all Buddhist Tantra holds the view of Anatma Bodh, or realization of or non-self, or of Shunyata Bodh, or realization of emptiness. And all the practices of Buddhist Tantrayan is for the purpose of realizing Shunyata. So it has to contain the wisdom of Shunyata. Now, a little later, we will look at how Tantra is defined within Buddhism. But let's look at its definition in Hindu Tantra first. In the definition given by Thana Shamsher, it says,
Tanana trayate iti tantra. तान्येर मुक्ति गराउने. केलाई तानेर? जीवलाई तानेर. जीव भनेको अलि सीमित हो, ब्रह्म भनेको असीमित हो.
Tananat trayate iti tantra, meaning that which is liberated through expansion. Expansion of what? Of the jiva, or a living being. Because jiva is somewhat limited, whereas Brahma is limitless or infinite. In other words, jiva brahmaiva napara. So it is a method to make jiva into Brahma. If we ask what the techniques for this are, then there are three types of achar. That is, there are three levels of conduct, including Pashvachar, Virachar, and Divyachar. Pashvachar means conduct similar to animals. Just like how animals simply follow their masters, it involves following Kali, Shiva, Bhairav, and others, and reciting Tvam Sharanam, or you are the only refuge, and you are Parmeshwar, or Supreme Being, and such. Thus practicing in this way. What happens as you continue to practice in this way for a long time? In Hindu Tantra it says,
Japat Siddhi, Japat Siddhi, Japat Siddhi no sangsaya. जपेर नै सिद्धि हुन्छ, जपेर नै सिद्धि हुन्छ, जपेर नै सिद्धि हुन्छ, त्यसमा कुनै शङ्का छैन हैन.
Japat Siddhi, Japat Siddhi, Japat Siddhi na samshaya. What this is saying is, through recitation Siddhi is attained, through recitation Siddhi is attained, through recitation Siddhi is attained, there is no doubt about this. That is why it involves sequential transmissions. That is, transmissions are given in a step-by-step series. And whether it is of Kali, or Tara, or Tripura Sundari, or Banglamukhi, or of Dash Mahavidya, or of Shiva, etc., the transmissions of the same God are taken in a series, and the practice is also done sequentially. Now, in all this, since the system is Ishwarvadi, or holds the belief in a supreme God, Kali takes the place of Ishwara, Shiva takes the place of Ishwara, etc. And as one continues practicing in this way for a long time, intensely concentrating with one-pointedness on whoever is kept in mind as Ishwara, what happens in human psychology is that the practitioner starts becoming one with whoever has been taken to be Ishwara. And this process is not found in Hindu Tantra alone. It is found in Sufism too, and in Yeshu Dharma or Christianity as well. Some attempt similar to this can be found. In Sufism, the only difference is that the experience that comes through meditating in this way, with oneness and devotion, is generally not respected. Excepting the Sufis, other Muslims do not accept this as valid. They consider such an experience to be atheistic. It is a similar situation in Christianity as well. But let's get back to Hindu Dharma. The first practice is of Dasoham, or I am your servant. This stage is called Pashvachar, or conduct similar to animals. And after practicing in this way for an extended time, reciting for a long time, I become one with Kali. Thus it becomes Soham, or Saham. That is, I am one with him or her. When this experience arises, that I am Shiva himself, I am Kali herself, this stage is called Virachar. Thus the state that is brought about through reciting mantra for a length of time is called Virachar. Upon continuing this practice again for an extended time, I eventually dissolves into Shiva, or Kali, or Tripura Sundari, etc. Completely dissolves. There is no longer any identity of I. What remains? Only Tripura Sundari, meaning only Brahma remains. There is no longer a Jiva. There is only Brahma. Thus, Jivo Brahmaiva Napara, meaning Jiva is Brahma itself and nothing other. This is what they all mean, even though the words used may be different. So only Kali remains, only Tripura Sundari remains, only Shiva remains. So Shivoham, or I am Shiva, is one state, but when one advances further than this, not even Aham or I is left, only Shiva remains. So again, Shivoham means Shiva is me and I am Shiva. Then beyond that, I is no longer there and there is only Shiva. Now such experiences are found in all systems which are Ishwarvadi or theistic. In Sufism, Mansur has called these same three stages Huwa al-Haq, Ana al-Haq, and Haq. Haq means something like truth, but it is one of the names of Allah. So in the Urdu language also, Haq means truth, or my truth, or this is my right. And this word also assimilated with similar meanings into Nepali. But here this word Haq is a name for Allah. And Huwa al-Haq means I am a servant of Allah, which perfectly matches the phrase Dasoham. And after continuing to practice this way for a long time, reciting La ilaha illa Allah, etc., whatever the recitation may be depending on the various traditions, what happens at the end? Allah and I become one, which is the stage of Anal-Haq. So what is the difference between Anal-Haq and Soham or Saham? It is the same thing. And it is the same whether it is Shiva or Kali. And after practicing on this again for a long time, the I eventually dissolves. This is the state of Naham, or no I, or Divyachar. Thus Divyachar and Naham. On the Sufi side, it is Haq. Only Haq remains. That is, there is only Allah, nothing else remains. This experience arises with this practice in any theistic system. Thus, it is not experienced only by Hindus, but the identical experience is found among Muslims in Sufism. And it is this exact same process that Mansur spoke of. The only difference is that among the Hindus, a person who has reached the state of there being only Kali or any other god, that is the Divyachar state or Naham state, is considered to be Parmeshwar, to be the same as Ishwar and worshipped as such. They are regarded as a Mahaguru or great Guru. Whereas in the case of Muslims, Mansur was impaled to death. Because he was a renowned person, a great scholar, he was first called to the courts, where he was told to recant what he had said, and then he would be released. But Mansur responded that he could not contradict the truth, so then he was impaled to death. Similarly, in Christianity also, there is the case of Jourdan du Chardin, a French mystic who, after practicing on Christ for a long time, said, "The more I know Christ, the more I become Christ." So the transformation from Dasoham to Soham is clearly seen here too. But the church ordered him to keep quiet about his experience. Then the German Meister Eckhart, who was from the 11th century, can also be found to have said similar things. So, this is the system of Hindu Tantra, which in one way or the other ultimately ends up with Brahma. The only difference is in the names used. But whatever name is used, such as Shambhavi Vidya, Parasamvit, Parachaitanya, or any other, it is the same Brahma that is pointed to in Vedanta, in the Upanishads. The Atma becomes Brahma, or the Jiva becomes Brahma. It is the same thing. Now let's get back to the definition.
Tananat trayate iti tantra jun.
Tananat trayate iti tantra. There are actually many definitions of Tantra in Hindu Dharma, and it is not possible to go over all of them. But this one fits well with their philosophy. Tananat means by stretching, expanding, and Trayate means liberates. So expansion of Jiva to become Brahma, expansion of a servant to become Kali or to become Shiva, so that there is no one remaining except for Shiva. There is no I remaining, and so on. Now let's go to Buddhist Tantra. There are many definitions of Buddhist Tantra as well, but the one that is most pertinent in the context here, and that is also most apropos to its practice, is given in the Gunavati Tika on the Mahamaya Tantra. It says,
Tantram iti trividam. Tantra trivid ko tin kisim ko huncha.
Tantram iti trividam, meaning that Tantra is of three types. Hetu Tantram, Phala Tantram, Upaya Tantram cha. That is Hetu Tantra, Phala Tantra and Upaya Tantra as well. And what is this? Tatra Prakriti Prabhaswaram Anadi Nidanam Chittam Bodhi Chittam Sa Hetus Tadbijam. The meaning of Tatra Prakriti Prabhaswaram is by nature luminous. And Anadi Nidanam means has no beginning and no end. And this is Chitta or mind. Now at this point, some may ask, isn't this the same as Brahma? But this is a stream. Chitta always means a continuum. Brahma is not a continuum. it is a sat or unchanging entity. So they are different. And what is this chitta? It is bodhi chitta. And what is bodhi chitta? The union of shunyata or emptiness and prabhaswar or luminosity is called bodhi chitta. Now to understand this, one needs to understand shunyata, and shunyata cannot be taught here in the open like this. It is something that has to be understood in depth. It needs to be understood through one's practice. Thus, tatra prakriti prabhaswaram, meaning by nature prabhaswar or luminous, anadi nidhanam, which has no beginning and no end, chittam bodhicittam. This is bodhicitta. And sa hetus tadbijam means this is the cause, and this itself is the seed. Seed of what? Seed of wisdom. So then, what is the practice? It includes Hetu Tantra, also known as Bhumi Tantra, and Upaya Tantra and Phala Tantra. Just what I said earlier. Tantram iti trividam, Hetu Tantram, Phala Tantram, Upaya Tantram cha. First, recognizing the nature of the luminous mind is Hetu Tantra. Now, in the context of recognizing the nature of mind, the practice of shunyata is also included. And this recognizing the nature of mind has to be learned from a guru who belongs to an authentic lineage. Also, it should not be done in a rushed manner, but rather one has to first build a foundation and then develop a recognition based on that. Someone who has not built a foundation risks recognizing it incorrectly. And one actually recognizes it through a guru belonging to a lineage, from the power of the blessings descending from all the gurus and siddhas who belong to that lineage. This is called Adhishthanpat, similar to what Hindus refer to as Shaktipat. In Buddhism, it is called Adhishthanpat or Jinbap in Tibetan, and it is through this that one recognizes it. This recognition is Hetu Tantra. After recognizing it, the next step is to use that recognition. In order to recognize it and use it, one should have already taken the proper empowerment. And so, based on this empowerment, one does the practices of shamatha and vipassana. In the language of Tantrayan or Vajrayan or Mantrayan, shamatha is called Utpatikram and vipassana is called Nishpannakram or Utpannakram. And what is vipassana related to? It is related to Prakriti Prabhaswar Chitta, that is, to the nature of the luminous mind. This is actually also found in Theravada, although Theravadi practice related to this is not found. But in the Udayi Sutta of the Anuttariya Vaggo of the Anguttara Nikaya, it is written,
Sa pabhasa chittam bhaveti iti. Pabhaswar chitta ko bhavana gara.
Sapabhasam chittam bhaveti, meaning meditate on the luminous mind. And anusati thanam, meaning this is a place of mindfulness. Here in Nepal, many assume that Vedananusati, which Goenka ji taught here, is the only type of mindfulness. But in this sutta, Bhagwan Buddha himself has said to take the luminous mind as anusati thanam, that is, as a place of mindfulness. Anusati is a Pali word which means anusmriti in Sanskrit. Then it continues, bahulikatam, that is, by repeatedly doing the practice, yana dasana patilabhaya samvatati, meaning enlightenment can be attained. This is what Tantra is. This is what the practice of Buddhist Tantra is. And because it has a myriad of methods, it is also called Upayayan, or way of skillful means. That is, Vajrayan or Tantrayan is also known as Upayayan. And again, Utpatikram is called Shamatha, and Utpanna or Nishpannakram is called Vipassana. And Vipassana on what? Vipassana on the nature of mind. So Vipassana on the nature of mind, not on the mind, but on the nature of mind. Vipassana of mind is Chittanusati, which is a different practice. And it is written in the He Vajra Tantra, that just like fire is produced when two sticks are rubbed together repeatedly, by repeatedly practicing Utpatikram and Nishpannakram, which is also known as Sampannakram, Sahaja Gyan or co-emergent wisdom arises. So as you can see, Buddhist Tantra is vastly different from Hindu Tantra, even in the methods of the path. The two might look kind of similar on the surface, with both having devas and devis. For example, Tara is found in Buddhist Tantra and also in Hindu Tantra. But regarding Tara, the Hindu Tara Tantra itself notes that Tara came from the Buddhists. She is said to have been brought from Mahachin or Tibet. But how is she used in Buddhism? Utpatikram and Sampannakram. For example, even in the Theravadi Vishuddhi Magga, the practice of Devanusati is found, and the same methods are used. Whereas on the Hindu side, Tara is viewed as a goddess who is formidable and great and equal to Ishvara, and the practice begins with, I am her servant. But here in the Buddha Dharma, the object is not to become one with Tara, but rather for me to attain wisdom and thereby to become just like Tara. There, after dissolving into Tara, one does not exist and only Tara remains. Thus there are differences in the methods of practice. Then there is the difference of saying Tantrayan and Tantra. Hindu practitioners are called Tantric, but practitioners of Buddhist Tantrayan are not called Tantric. In the Tantra texts such as Hevajra Tantra and Chakrasamvara Tantra, they are called Mantrin or Mantradhar and not Tantric. So even though Hindu Tantra was derived from and copied from Vajrayana and then Hinduized, there is still a world of difference between the two. There is a difference in the goal and there is a difference in the practice. In Hindu Tantra, Vipassana cannot be found anywhere. There is not even any concept of it. All of their practice is done to attain Atmagyan or realization of a really existing self. It is only the words that are used that vary among the different traditions, with some calling it Kali Gyan and others calling it Shiva Gyan. That is the only difference, that is it. Whether it is the Kaula school of Kashmir or other various traditions, it is the same thing. After practicing for an extended time, in the end, the knower itself becomes Shiva and one dissolves into him, and then only Shiva remains. That is it. Now it should also be mentioned that there might have been some exchanges that took place between the texts of Hindu Tantra and of Buddhist Tantra in the later centuries. This cannot be negated. However, even if some exchanges did take place, Buddhist Tantra is based on Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist correct view, on the Noble Eightfold Path, on Shamatha and Vipassana, and on Anitya or impermanence, Dukkha or suffering, Anatma or non-self, and Shunyata or emptiness. Whereas Hindu Tantra is purely Atmavadi, with a belief in a really existing self. It is Brahmavadi, with a belief in Brahma. There may be some variations in how Brahma is defined, but it is Brahma. There might be some subtle differences, with some saying Parasamvit instead of saying Brahma. But what does Parasamvit denote here? It is referring to the same knower. And what is this according to Shankaracharya? In Drigdrishya Vivek, he clearly says that this is Atma itself. And this itself is Brahma. Ayam Atma Brahma. Meaning, this itself is Brahma. Thus, Hindu Tantras are branches of the Upanishadic doctrine, which were influenced by Buddhist Tantra. But Buddhist Tantra has not been influenced by Hindu Tantra, nor is it a branch of the Vedic tradition. It is a pure shaman system. So, having provided these points of differentiation between the two, let us end here.
Etat sadhana punyena sarve sarvagata padam prapnuvantu jayantu cha kushalam karma vairiram janmamitu jara vyadi swarupa vartapuritvat mochayama savasatvan durgamat bhavasagara.